When we think of billionaires, a few famous names come to mind: Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates. They're on the news, they own space companies, and they're some of the richest people in the world. But what if I told you there were far more billionaires than you think? The ultra-rich might not just be a handful of people, but a growing global club with thousands of members. The first thing to understand is that the number of billionaires is skyrocketing. In the year 2000, there were just over 400 billionaires in the world. Today, that number has exploded to over 2,700. That's nearly 7 times as many in just 2 decades. And these aren't just tech giants or Wall Street tycoons. Billionaires now come from all kinds of industries: real estate, pharmaceuticals, luxury goods, and even fashion. The growth of billionaires isn't just happening in the US and Europe. Countries like China, India, and Brazil are producing their own ultra-wealthy at an astonishing rate. China alone has nearly 900 billionaires, more than any other country except the United States. And that's not just the big cities where this wealth is being created. Small towns, rural regions, and industries you might never have heard of are home to people worth billions. But why don't we hear about all these billionaires? The truth is that many of them prefer to stay out of the spotlight. For every well-known billionaire like Warren Buffett, there are dozens more who you've never heard of. People who live quietly, away from the media, enjoying their wealth in private. Many billionaires don't want the attention that comes with being a public eye. Some prefer to keep their wealth hidden for privacy or even security reasons. This makes it hard to track just how many there are. Another reason there are so many billionaires is that wealth is being created faster than ever. In the digital age, fortunes can be made in just a few years. Look at tech startups. Entrepreneurs who create a popular app or website can become billionaires seemingly overnight. Take the rise of cryptocurrencies, for example. Bitcoin and other digital currencies have created a whole new class of young, wealthy individuals who went from modest means to billionaire status practically overnight. This new wave of wealth creation means the billionaire club is growing at an unprecedented rate. In Russia, many billionaires made their fortunes in energy and natural resources after the fall of the Soviet Union. In India, booming tech and pharmaceutical industries have produced billionaires at a stunning pace. In Africa, rising entrepreneurs in industries like telecom and banking are joining the billionaire ranks. The United States has an astounding 735 billionaires, who collectively control around $4.5 trillion. But here's the twist. Not all of these billionaires are accounted for. Forbes, the publication famous for its billionaire lists, makes it clear that their figures are estimates. So the real number? Likely much higher. Why? Many of the super rich prefer to stay hidden. Back in 1981, Malcolm Forbes, the flashy and larger-than-life publisher of Forbes magazine, came up with a bold idea. He wanted his team to create a special issue featuring the 400 wealthiest Americans. His inspiration came from Carolyn Astor, socialite from New York's Gilded Age, who was known for hosting the elite in her Fifth Avenue mansion's grand ballroom, which could hold about 400 people. Forbes, who loved living large himself, probably saw a bit of his extravagant lifestyle in Astor's world. Forbes lived like royalty. He owned a 126-foot yacht named Highlander, where he threw lavish parties for celebrities and politicians. His collection of Fabergé eggs and his mansion in Normandy added to his allure. He even had hot air balloons with designs as wild as a sphinx and a bust of Beethoven, one shaped like his Normandy chateau and another modeled after a sultan, matching the size of his yacht. But while Forbes loved the idea of the 400 richest Americans, his editorial team wasn't so enthusiastic. They conducted a study and came back to him with bad news. They didn't think it was possible to identify all of these wealthy individuals. Forbes, however, was not one to back down. He bluntly told them if they couldn't do it, he'd find other journalists who could. Reluctantly, the team agreed, and after a year of research, numerous interviews, and countless flights, the first ever Forbes 400 list was published. At the top was Daniel K. Ludwig, a shipping magnate worth an estimated $2 billion at the time. Fast forward to today, and Ludwig's fortune, if adjusted for inflation, would be around $5.8 billion. Still a massive amount, but it wouldn't even crack the top 100 anymore. He'd find himself tied for 182nd place with Peter Gassner, CEO of a cloud software company called Viva, whose wealth flies so far under the radar that one of his most detailed profiles is on a small business parks blog. Since then, Forbes has expanded the list beyond just America. In 1987, they launched the world's Billionaire list, which today has ballooned to an eye-watering 2,668 names. The job of compiling this list is led by Carrie Dolan, a veteran editor at Forbes. When she started back in 1994, gathering financial data was a lot harder than it is now. For instance, when she covered Latin America, she couldn't just hop online and get instant stock exchange data. She relied on contacts who shipped her physical books full of information on the biggest companies in countries like Brazil. These days, while technology has made access to data much easier, the sheer number of billionaires has made her job even more complicated. To give you an idea, in 2022 alone, the Billionaire Club grew by 573 members. During the pandemic, Forbes reported that the world was producing a new billionaire every 17 hours. At the top of this list is none other than Elon Musk, with an eye-popping $219 billion. Right behind him is Jeff Bezos with cool $171 billion. Then you have Bernard Arnault and his family, $158 billion, Bill Gates, $129 billion, and Warren Buffett, $118 billion, rounding out the top five. As you scroll through the list, you'll see familiar names from the world of tech, big retail giants, and famous brands. For example, the Waltonaires of Walmart fame are each worth around $65 billion. You also find names like Nike's founders with $47.3 billion, and even Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott, who's now worth $43.6 billion after their high-profile divorce. But it's not just familiar names anymore. As the list grows, you encounter lesser-known billionaires with fascinating backstories. Thomas Peterffy, for example, was an immigrant from communist Hungary who pioneered computerized stock trading. He's now worth $20.1 billion. There's also Robert Pera, founder of Ubiquity Networks, and Dustin Moskovitz, who was roommates with Mark Zuckerberg at Harvard and got rich from Facebook's success. These billionaires, while lesser known, still hold staggering fortunes. As the number of billionaires grows, so does their collective wealth. Today, America alone has 735 billionaires. What started as Malcolm Forbes' fascination with the ultra-rich has grown into a global obsession, reflecting both the rise of extreme wealth and the growing gap between the ultra-wealthy and the rest of society. As more billionaires are minted every year, the list becomes a symbol of both success and the inequality that continues to divide us. Forbes spends a lot of time trying to figure out who the world's billionaires are. They have over 50 employees across 16 countries who analyze public records and talk to employees, competitors, lawyers, and even the billionaires themselves. Some of the wealthy cooperate, opening their books to help Forbes nail down their fortunes. But here's the catch. Most don't. Many billionaires are doing the exact opposite, working hard to hide their wealth. These billionaires use a maze of financial tricks to keep their fortunes private. They create shell companies and move money through complicated tax strategies, and sometimes their wealth is so deeply tied to family businesses or government positions that separating personal wealth from other assets becomes nearly impossible. Take Vladimir Putin, for example. No one knows exactly how much he's worth because his money is so intricately tied to the Russian state. Forbes and Bloomberg, two of the most well-known sources for billionaire tracking, have even admitted they can't track all of the wealthiest Americans. Forbes editor Carrie Dolan once described the hidden billionaire, someone who, for example, sold a company in the 1990s for $250 million and has since wisely invested that money. While their fortune has grown to billions because they've kept a low profile, no one knows they're ultra-rich. They don't show up on the radar because their name isn't in the headlines, and their business isn't a household brand. Not every billionaire seeks the spotlight. Sure, some love the attention, flaunting their wealth with mega yachts, private jets, and multi-million-dollar homes. But many of them live under the radar, preferring a quieter, more anonymous lifestyle. Why? Staying hidden comes with its perks. There are three main reasons why these billionaires choose to keep a low profile. First, public wealth can be a curse. Look at lottery winners. Many end up in financial trouble. Studies show that lottery winners are 7 times more likely to go bankrupt than the average person. Why? Because being publicly known as rich turns you into a target for harassment, lawsuits, and people looking for a handout. Even worse, billionaires are at risk of being kidnapped, blackmailed, or robbed. Security becomes a major concern, and the more people know about your wealth, the more you have to worry. Second, staying anonymous helps these billionaires avoid the attention of media outlets like Forbes. Forbes, once seen as a beacon of prestige, now makes some of its money by letting people pay to be featured. While this might work for a rising entrepreneur looking for fame, it's not appealing for someone who's already a billionaire. The ultra-rich would rather avoid the spotlight entirely than risk looking desperate for attention. Finally, being public about your wealth can hurt your business. People love supporting small, scrappy companies, but when they find out the owner is a billionaire, that loyalty can fade. It's the reason why many companies prefer to keep their founders' fortunes quiet. Not to mention, if you're known to be ultra-wealthy, contractors and service providers tend to overcharge you, assuming you can afford it. But how do these billionaires stay hidden? They're masters of discretion. They avoid flashy public sales, keep their investments quiet, and structure their businesses in ways that make it difficult to track their true wealth. These are the billionaires who never make headlines. You'll never see them splashed across the front page. But they're quietly managing their empires and growing their wealth far from the public eye. Interestingly, the US probably has far more billionaires than anyone realizes. The true number might be in the thousands, not hundreds. These hidden billionaires use all sorts of strategies to stay invisible, from offshore accounts to complicated legal structures. But for them, it's not just about keeping their wealth a secret, it's about keeping their lives peaceful, secure, and drama-free. When you get sued, anything lawyers dig up usually becomes public record, unless there's a rare exception where evidence gets sealed. The easiest way to avoid this hassle? Avoid attention altogether. So if you're a new billionaire who's determined to stay out of the public eye, you're already on the right track. Billionaires often take advantage of financial strategies that help protect their assets and maintain privacy. A common tactic is used holding companies and trusts set up in states like Nevada or South Dakota, which are known for their strong asset protection and privacy laws. These states make it harder for anyone to dig into your wealth, keeping your financial information well out of reach. Once you've secured your financial setup, the next step is to avoid flaunting your wealth. It's not that you can't enjoy your money. You can live in a beautiful home, drive a nice car, but the trick is to stay low-key. For example, buy a great house, but make sure it's in a private area, not the most extravagant one around. Drive a luxurious car, but don't broadcast it on social media. If you fly private, resist the urge to slap your name or flashy logo on the side of your plane. If a major publication like Forbes ever calls you up to ask about your wealth, the best approach is to downplay it. Laugh it off and tell them you wish you were worth $1 billion, and that they shouldn't imply you are because it would be inaccurate. Of course, the first step in staying hidden as a billionaire is becoming one, which is no easy feat. I don't have the best answer for how to do that, but if you want to see how some influencers are attempting to join the Billionaire Club, check out my video on influencer businesses. Spoiler, turning social media fame into billions is much harder than it looks. Staying under the radar is not just about financial protection. It's about living a life that's peaceful, secure, and out of the public eye. Staying discreet, you can enjoy your wealth without drawing the wrong kind of attention. As we look to the future, the number of billionaires is only expected to grow. From space exploration to artificial intelligence, new industries will continue to create new billionaires. But with that, there will be even more pressure on them to use their wealth responsibly. The next generation of billionaires could be the ones who shape the future of humanity. Whether they use their power for good or for personal gains remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the billionaire class is bigger, more influential, and more global than ever before.